Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So, today we have a special episode. We are going to be talking about the thyroid, and I have a thyroid specialist here. And so, I'm excited to have her to come in and break things down. I know a lot of you come to see me with Hashimoto's and other thyroid stuff. So, I figured, why don't we bring the expert here who knows a lot more about thyroid than I do? Her name is Dr. Dana Gibbs. So, welcome to the channel, Dr. Gibbs. We are so happy to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and give us, your story about thyroid? And yeah, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, by the way. Thank you. It's an honor to
Yeah.
come and talk to you guys. So I am Dana Gibbs. I am an ENT specialist. So
Okay.
for the first 20 years of my career, actually after I was out of residency, I did general ENT, a lot of which was thyroid surgeries, thyroid nodules. And then about 4 years ago, I decided that what I really wanted to focus on was the medical management of people who have been kind of neglected by the mainstream medical complex, so to speak, who have Hashimoto's disease and other thyroid disorders that don't necessarily need surgery, or the people are trying to prevent themselves from needing surgery. And it's not cancer, but you don't feel good. And maybe your doctor said that your TSH was normal and nothing else is to be done. And,
Yeah.
I know actually more than the run of the mill person how devastating it is to get that when you don't feel well. Because it turns out I had a thyroid disorder for 20 years that went unrecognized, and I was exhausted and my hair was thin and my guts were all riled up all the time, and I was constipated and bloated, and I was freezing all the time, and all these symptoms that, I went to the doctor, they checked my TSH, they said, it's all fine. Here, take some antidepressants,
Wow.
and to me, I was a medical student the first time that happened. And I just thought, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm just stressed out. I'm a medical student. Of course I'm stressed out. And so I believed them. And the truth of the matter is that's the biggest mistake that I see people make, is that they believe the first doctor that tells them, oh yeah, your TSH is fine. Therefore we don't need to do anything. But I luckily, very luckily, I was out in practice already. I went to a conference where a fellow was talking about thyroid, and he said, look, you don't always have an abnormal TSH to benefit from being on thyroid medicine. And I'm like, what? And he listed this list of symptoms. I mean, it was, it was a big, long list, like 20 symptoms. And I'm like, I have 17 of those symptoms.
Wow.
And so I did what he said. I went and got Armour Thyroid. I'm going to say the brand. This is not CME. I'm going to say the brand. That's what I was taking. I got on Armour Thyroid, and it was like, holy cow, is this what normal people feel like? It was a total turnaround for me, because I wasn't tired anymore. I woke up in the morning without hitting snooze 5 dozen times. I wasn't freezing. I could eat and not gain weight. I could eat normal amounts of food and not gain weight. My energy just went crazy. My hair grew back. I mean, all these things.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, wow. And here I am. I'm a doctor who people come to me about their thyroid, and I did not know this. And so I was like, okay, I got to find out what's going on here. I got to know more about this. And the more educated I got about it, the more my patients ended up not needing surgery, because I was like, look, I can help you manage this thyroid nodule that you have, because guess what? It's from Hashimoto's disease. It's not a tumor. It's not cancer. It's a nodule from Hashimoto's disease. And if we treat your thyroid correctly, that nodule will not get any bigger and you will not have to have surgery. And so that's where I started. That's where I started.
I never stopped getting amazed by your story, knowing how, like, being in training and being a doctor, and it's like you should know better, you should know this, but not a lot of people do, because
No.
that's the training. Once the TSH is normal, it's like you're done. The thyroid is fine. And
Yes.
it's like we don't look at the symptoms that the patient is asking us, and we don't do a deep dive. We don't look into things. It's like your TSH is fine. You must be fine. So thank you for sharing that. So share with our audience, like, what is Hashimoto's? I know for you as a specialist, Hashimoto's could mean a lot of things. So, tell us about the function of the thyroid and how Hashimoto's come into it.
So maybe we ought to step back a little bit, because I listed a whole pile of symptoms, but I didn't really say, okay, first of all, your thyroid gland is one of your endocrine glands, meaning it releases hormones into your bloodstream. It sits here in the bottom part of your neck, in front of your windpipe and behind your collarbones, and it can get lumps and nodules in it for a variety of reasons, not all of which need surgery. So that's one thing that is kind of a myth. That's like, oh, if you have a thyroid nodule, it has to come out. It's like, not always. Most of the time, actually, not always. But anyway, so the thyroid gland is there to release hormones into your body. And the hormone it releases is thyroid hormone. And thyroid hormone, it sounds like it should be one molecule, but it's not. It's several different ones. You have the pre-hormone, which is called T4. The reason it's called T4 is because it has 4 iodine atoms on it. It also makes a little bit of something called T3. T3 is the same, but it only has 3 iodine atoms on it. And then there's all kinds of breakdown products from there. We go to T2, T1. There's something called reverse T3, which is still 3 iodine atoms, but it's the wrong iodine atom. And that one does different things. And all these different metabolites are complexly related to one another, and they do different things in your body. But everybody who has a thyroid gland that's releasing thyroid hormone has different combinations of all that stuff in their blood. And so you can measure those things. But anyway, Hashimoto's disease, you would think, oh, well, Hashimoto's is a kind of thyroid disease. Well, yes, it is, but it's an autoimmune disease. So Hashimoto's disease is not a disease of the thyroid gland. It's a disease of your immune system that damages your thyroid gland.
I see. Yeah.
And when it damages your thyroid gland, the first thing that happens is it tears up a bunch of tissue and cells in there, and it releases a whole lot of thyroid hormone all at once, because your thyroid gland, not only does it make the thyroid hormone, but it stores it. It stores like 90 days worth of thyroid hormone in your body. Not all of your glands store hormones. Actually, most of your glands don't store hormones. So that's kind of something that people don't realize. But the first thing that happens is that the Hashimoto's antibodies, which are triggered by a lot of different things, and we can talk about what those triggers are after a while. But Hashimoto's antibodies tell your immune system, hey, attack these molecules inside your thyroid gland. And it's not attacking the thyroid hormone itself. It's attacking 2 molecules. One of them is called thyroid peroxidase, which is one of the molecules that helps create the thyroid gland, the thyroid hormone in the first place. And then it also attacks something called thyroglobulin. So those are 2 proteins that are in the body. And your immune system makes antibodies against those things. And so it makes thyroid peroxidase antibody, thyroglobulin antibody. And so you can measure those antibodies in your blood after the fact, after you already have Hashimoto's disease. And a lot of people do. A lot of people measure those. But those antibodies go in and they cause damage in your thyroid hormone. And as that damage, it's like it happens maybe all at once. And then as that time passes, then scar tissue will come in and replace the damaged tissue, and some of the tissue that's still there will start to grow back. And because there's all this scar tissue in there now, that when the tissue starts to grow back, it grows in blobs like nodules, because it's all hemmed around by all these tight bands of
Scar
scar
tissue,
tissue.
yeah.
Yeah. And so you get then what's called a multinodular appearance, or a heterogeneous appearance, if you look at your thyroid gland on a
Yeah.
sonogram. And that's a big clue that you have had
Wow.
or still have Hashimoto's disease
Hashimoto's.
going on in your body. So when I talk about Hashimoto's disease, when I think about it, I think about two different things that are going on. And the first one is, well, maybe three actually. The first one is the autoimmune attack still happening? And is there something we can do to calm that down? So that's box one that we have to take care of. And then the second box that we have to take care of is the thyroid tissue that you have left making enough of the right amounts of your thyroid hormone to give your body the energy and the stimulus that it needs? Because that's what thyroid hormone does. It goes into all the tissues of your body, and it promotes the use of the food that you eat to make energy, to make proteins, to grow your hair, to move your GI tract along, to help you build muscles, to help your brain function properly. I mean, there's so many things in your body that thyroid does. And so if you don't have enough, or you don't have the right balance of that T at 3 and T4, then those things don't work well. And maybe we ought to mention what TSH is, because TSH is not a thyroid hormone.
It's not.
No, TSH is a pituitary hormone. So it comes from your brain. It's signaled from your brain, and it's released by your pituitary gland, and it goes into your body, and it says, hey, thyroid, we need more. And so the higher TSH is, that the more it's trying to get your thyroid to do more, to make more, to bring more. If your TSH is low, it means either your brain thinks you have enough thyroid hormone, or it means that part of your brain or your pituitary gland has been damaged or is downregulated for some reason, and is not making enough TSH for a reason that doesn't have anything to do with your thyroid gland. So that's important. It's kind of an important aside to remember, because some people automatically think if your TSH is low, that the only thing that's possible is that you have too much thyroid hormone in your body. And that's not true. Not true. So TSH is a brain hormone that is controlled by the amount of thyroid hormone that's circulating around in your body. And so remember how I said in Hashimoto's disease, the first thing that happens is that you all of a sudden have way too much thyroid hormone getting released. Okay. And that's temporary. But what happens is it tells your brain, oh my God, there's too much. Let's shut it down. Let's shut it down. And it does more than just lower the TSH. It does do that. But it also switches up the conversion of T4 to T3.
Which is the more active form of the thyroid.
And the T3 is the more active form. That's the form you need to have energy and to do all the things. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that most of the T3 that our body uses is actually made in our tissues, not in the thyroid gland, but in our tissues from the T4. And so when you are getting enough T4 coming out, it doesn't necessarily still mean that you have the right balance of thyroid hormone in your body tissues. And so you can have the T4 level is right. It tells the TSH, hey, we're good. Don't make too much TSH. And your body's still crying out for more T3.
Yeah. And it could be, you know, in functional medicine, we look at, like, at that point, we try to look at your nutrients, because, you know, in order to form the whole thyroid hormone itself, you need things like the selenium, you need things like iodine, and in our vitamin C, and other stuff there to cook the
iron,
whole thing.
Protein,
So
Yes.
So, so what are some of the like practical things you do with some of your patients when they come in and, for instance, they are lacking enough thyroid? Do
Mm-hmm.
you always start with thyroid replacement, or what are some of the nutrient
It
stuff that you do?
Yeah, so it depends. So some people will
Okay.
come in and I'll get their labs and it will be, you know what? Your thyroid seems to have enough hormone, but it's at the wrong balance. And if that's the case, like say if you have enough T3 in your body, but
Mm-hmm.
the balance is off, then I know that because I'm checking the reverse T3. And if the reverse T3 is high, even if everything else is fine, you're not going to feel well. Because reverse
Mm.
T3, in a way that we don't really understand, seems to lower the function of the active T3 that you have in your body. And those symptoms come. And there are so many reasons why reverse T3 can be high. And it can be things like malnutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And malnutrition doesn't just mean do you have enough calories in your body? It means things like what you were saying. Is your iron level okay? Are you getting sufficient selenium and iodine? Are you um, are you getting enough protein? Are you insulin resistant? Those are super, super important questions that need to be answered.
And even to add to that, you have cortisol issues,
Oh my
which
gosh.
can increase the
That's a
conversion,
whole
right?
nother like 3 hour talk.
So
That I wasn't
it's
even
like,
going to bring that up, but yes,
oh,
stress, absolutely. If you have too much cortisol or not enough
oh,
response of cortisol in your body,
oh, hold
that
on.
by
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. We will edit this part.
Yeah.
I moved my AirPods and
Oh, it did
it
something
started
weird.
playing. Yeah, sorry. I was like,
All
wait a
right.
minute, what's
Wait,
going on?
where were we? Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, we started talking
We
about
were talking
cortisol.
about cortisol, yes,
Yeah.
and then our cortisol levels went up. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, uh, it's hard because I've heard you on your podcast, talk about how cortisol can increase the conversion to reverse T3, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I always look at your formula with the total T3 divided by the reverse T3. And so
Mhm.
talk to us about that.
Sure. So cortisol is such a complex topic because cortisol is kind of the master hormone in your body.
Yes.
And if you are under an extreme amount of stress and have kind of lots of elevated secretion of cortisol, it will it's almost it kind of makes sense if you think about the evolutionary reason why we have cortisol. And we
Yeah.
have cortisol mostly because life was really hard and people would be starving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you want different chemical processes to go on in
Mm-hmm.
your body to conserve energy when you're starving than you
Yeah.
do when you live in the 21st century and there's a McDonald's on every corner and
Yeah.
nobody is, nobody, there's a lot of people who aren't eating the right food, but there's nobody who's really starving here in the
That's
United
true.
States, or at
Yeah.
least I hope there's not.
Yeah.
Um, and so cortisol is meant for conservation of energy to keep you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, our body only has one way. It's like the carpenter who only has a hammer.
Yep. Yep.
Um, all the different stresses that we undergo in our lives, your body has one hammer. And
Yeah.
so if your boss yells at you, one hammer. If
Yep.
you are trying to diet so you can lose weight, cortisol
One hand.
still
Yeah.
right there. Your body says, oh my God, we're starving. Get out the hammer. If somebody nearly hits you as you walk across the street, get out the hammer. It's the same thing, or if you live next door to somebody who you're scared of, that's the
Yeah.
hammers out all the time,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So or if you live in the house with somebody you're scared of,
Yeah.
domestic violence
Yeah.
is a thing. We gotta pay attention to that. But anyway, so
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
that hammer does a bunch of stuff, and a couple of ways it changes the balance of the thyroid hormones that you have, and it lowers your TSH. It says, hey, we don't need to be burning up all this energy. We need to conserve.
Mm.
And so
Wow.
yeah, high cortisol levels and unbalanced cortisol messes you up in so many ways. And it goes right along with Hashimoto's disease. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I think that a lot of people who get Hashimoto's disease have it because their cortisol levels are high. And because what that does is it pushes your immune system towards autoimmune disease. And it
Yes.
pushes your
Yes.
immune system also towards allergies. So many of the people that I see
Mm-hmm.
or did see in my general ENT practice came in because they thought, oh, I have allergy. Oh, I have chronic sinus. I have this, I have that. I'm
Mm.
sick all the time. And
Yeah.
that's a big, big symptom of low thyroid.
I'm sick
But,
all the time. Yeah.
but guess what? Sick all the time is also what you get when you have too much cortisol around in your
That's
body.
true.
And
That's
what do
true.
we do when somebody's sick? We give them more cortisone. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. So it's this vicious cycle.
which then leads to leaky gut and
It leads to
intestinal
all kinds of
permeability
horrible
and
things.
increased autoimmune disease,
Yes,
like
yes,
autoimmunity, because it's
yes,
all sort of related, and it's
yeah,
so intertwined.
yes. And if
Which
anybody
it's
tells you
just
they think it's simple, they're lying.
it's not.
It's not simple.
It's so complex, and so
Yeah.
it's so hard to like look at one thing, which is why I enjoy integrative medicine and functional
Mhm.
medicine, because we are looking at things from a holistic and whole person perspective, rather
Yeah.
than just looking at your TSH and being like, it is normal, so therefore
Yeah.
you are all set.
Yeah.
So that thank you so much for the overview of the thyroid and the
Yeah.
Hashimoto's, and just giving us language for what a
Yeah.
lot of my listeners and patients go through, which is like a litany of symptoms, which
Hmm.
is usually categorized as depression, and it's not necessarily a deficiency in serotonin or
Well, it's
norepinephrine, but
definitely not a
actually
deficiency in Prozac.
yes, exactly. So then it's and one interesting group of patients I've come across are the people who are on Synthroid and still
Hmm.
feel crappy. So talk to us about
Oh, you want
that.
to talk about that because that happens all the time. Okay.
Yeah, so
So,
tell us, give us like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
Cliff Note
Um,
version of what
s-
happens in that
sure.
scenario.
So, and this is box number 2. So we said box number 1 was the Hashimoto's disease, and we have to use
Correct.
that if we can fix that autoimmune attack by
Yeah,
managing your stress, by taking away nutrient deficiency, all that. That's box number 1. Box
correct.
number 2 is this thyroid imbalance, thyroid deficiency that people with Hashimoto's disease eventually end up with, because
Mm.
the longer you have that autoimmune attack going on, the
Mm-hmm.
more damaged your thyroid gland
Mm-hmm.
is, and
Yeah,
eventually it gets to where it just can't keep up anymore.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so when it just can't keep up anymore and the levels of thyroid hormone in your blood fall down, then your TSH will go up. That thyroid stimulating
Yeah.
hormone that we talked about before, that starts going up. And the guidelines tell us that if your TSH is above about 4.5, then that's considered abnormal.
Yeah.
And if you're between 4.5 and 10, then we call that subclinical hypothyroidism. So that means
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's abnormal, but it's not that abnormal. And the truth of the matter is, if you give those folks levothyroxine or Synthroid, or one of
Mm-hmm.
the many versions of Synthroid, a lot of times they will feel worse. And
Mm.
but if your TSH gets above 10, then you really have a problem. That's your thyroid is seriously damaged. It's really not keeping up. Those people a good proportion of those people whose TSH is above 10, Synthroid or levothyroxine will help them in a significant way because they have such low thyroid that
anything will help.
That anything is going to help them. But
Yeah.
in that gray area, the subclinical in-between area, if you give somebody levothyroxine, very, very frequently will actually make them feel worse.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that. And it's a nuanced reason, but I'm going to explain it to you. And hopefully it's going to make some sense, because what we were saying about TSH samples the thyroid hormone in your blood to decide whether it needs to be up or down. Well, if you give somebody Synthroid, that's T4, and your TSH, or the parts of your brain that make TSH, sample your blood and go, wow, we got a lot of T4. And so what they do is they signal out to your body, hey, we got a lot of T4. We should make less T3. Not only should the TSH go down, but we should also make less T3. And T3 is made from T4 by something called the deiodinase enzyme. Okay. And there's a different one for making T3 as it is for making reverse T3. And it's like a seesaw. So you got this much T4 and it's all getting made into T3. And if you have deiodinase 2, it makes more T3 and less of the reverse T3. But the higher that T4 gets, your body goes, oh, we got too much T3. Let's make less, make less, make less. And so the more Synthroid you give that person, the higher proportion of it they're making into reverse T3. And the lower proportion they have of T3. And that's why I measure that ratio. And I'm looking, okay, are we balanced? Balanced is 12. Okay. If you're at 16, that's too much T3. If you're at 2, that's way too much reverse T3. So I'm looking for that balance. And if the balance is correct and the TSH is down and the free hormone levels are where they're supposed to be, then all is good and we don't need to do anything else. But a lot of people who are given thyroid hormone, and this is, the guidelines tell that's what the guidelines tell doctors they should do. Is give levothyroxine. That's all the guidelines say. Give levothyroxine. Well, 15% of people who are given levothyroxine don't get well or don't feel well. Their TSH may go normal, but they don't feel well. 15%. That's a lot. I mean, wow. That's like, I'm trying to remember my statistics now.
Out of 10 people, 1.5 of them don't feel well.
Right. And
out of 100, that's 15 people.
If you think there's 50 million people in the United States that have thyroid problems, that's a lot of people. 15% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the total amount of people who have thyroid problems, it's a lot. And if you add the number of people who've been told their thyroid is normal and they shouldn't do anything, that number is even bigger than we think it is, because nobody's keeping that statistic. Nobody's keeping it. But anyway, so when I see somebody come in and those numbers are really off and they feel terrible, a lot of times I will focus at first, at least for the first 6-8 weeks, on getting that balance back by giving thyroid hormone to that person. If it's just, okay, your reverse T3 is high and everything else is okay, then we start with the stress and the nutrition and all that. If you're like, oh yeah, you really clearly don't have the right balance of T3 and RT3. You really clearly don't have enough T3 stimulating you, then it is going to be incredibly difficult for you to go out and exercise the way the doctors want you to cook the nutritious meals with fresh fruit and vegetables, and to go out and do, the stress reduction and the exercise and the go walk in nature and all that stuff. If you can't get up off the couch, you can't do any of that stuff.
That's true.
You can't. And so
that's true.
So there's those two boxes that we put people in. It's like you have to take care of both boxes or you're not going to get well.
That's true.
So a lot of times I will start with box 2, which is getting the thyroid hormones balanced correctly. And then seeing
Interesting.
once they feel like those are better balanced, and it's like, oh, my energy is better. Now I can get up and go for a walk at least 10 or 15 minutes a day.
Then we start talking about the other things
Then we
that they
start
can.
talking about the other things. Then we do some more testing. Then, I mean, and there is, and I, you and I talked before, and
Yeah.
one of the things that I mentioned is that I don't do a whole lot of functional labs for
Yeah.
people. I do much more mainstream labs. But one of the functional labs that I do is something called a hair elements analysis. And a hair elements analysis is something
Mm.
where you cut off the hair like half an inch where the hair close to your scalp, and you do it back where your hair is, going to hide it. But
Yeah.
you send that in, and that tells us whether you have mineral deficiencies or element deficiencies, and it tells us
Okay.
whether you have toxicities.
Oh,
And
okay.
I have found a lot of lithium deficiency,
Oh,
which is easy to treat with a supplement. So easy.
yeah.
And sometimes that's like the magic potion that people are like, oh, my depression went away. Boom. Like, what?
Because we
Okay.
do use lithium for bipolar
Well, I mean,
depression.
high doses
Okay.
of lithium we use
Oh,
for
okay.
bipolar disorder, but I'm talking about like 1 milligram a day.
Smaller.
I'm
Oh,
talking about
wow.
itty bitty amounts of lithium.
Wow.
But anyway, if you're deficient, then you're going to be anxious and you're going to be depressed and there's all kind of stuff. But anyway, the other stuff I'm looking for is heavy metal toxicity,
Okay.
arsenic, lead, mercury, blah, blah, blah. And if I find that, I send people out. That's not my cup of tea. But if you
Yep.
have heavy metal toxicity, you have to get that fixed. I mean, lead poisoning is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
None
Mm-hmm.
of those toxicities are any joke. And so they have to be taken care of.
Because they carry the same anion or cation charges, like
Yeah.
iodine, So it's
Well,
like iodine, I don't know if it's +1 or +2, and then
yeah. Iodine is
it's just
funny
like
because iodine is a volatile element.
it's minus. I think that's minus.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as sodium, so it's a plus.
Chemistry. Oh, okay. Okay. All
Is that
right.
right? Hang on. Now I don't remember chemistry. Are you kidding?
I tried to
But anyway,
remember, but I don't.
iodine.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two minerals that I probably ought to mention because
Mm-hmm.
they are very commonly supplemented,
Okay.
particularly in the influencer world of Hashimoto's disease. There are people who are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you should take 2,000 micrograms or 10,000 micrograms of iodine a day." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, you
Yeah.
shouldn't. No, you absolutely shouldn't. If you have an iodine deficiency, you can't make enough thyroid hormone. That is true. That's
Very
absolutely
true.
true.
Yeah.
But
But we need
how
numbers.
much is deficient?
Yeah.
Let's look at your numbers and see where you are.
Yeah.
And if I find somebody who's iodine deficient, I want them to take maybe 150 micrograms, not milligrams,
Mm-hmm.
micrograms of iodine a day. If you take high numbers of iodine, you can actually cause yourself to get Hashimoto's disease if you didn't have it before. You can trigger Hashimoto's disease. So
Wow.
iodine is very dangerous. And there are a lot of people out there, there are a lot of doctors, kind of old time doctors, who were big proponents of taking really high amounts of iodine, like Lugol's iodine. A lot of people have heard of Lugol's iodine. Lugol's iodine is so concentrated that you cannot take even a single drop of Lugol's is enough iodine for like 6 or 8 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You cannot use Lugol's iodine to supplement.
Yeah.
And so when I see somebody that I think needs to take iodine, I put them on a trace mineral supplement that has a little bit of iodine, a little bit of selenium, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And they're all these trace minerals. And trace meaning that they're, there's barely a trace of it in there. Selenium is the other one. Selenium is necessary for one of the enzymes that makes thyroid hormone, but high doses of selenium are also toxic.
True.
And so you really, really don't want to go over about, I'm going to say, 250 micrograms a day, and
Okay.
probably 75 micrograms is plenty.
Okay.
And people are like, oh, well, I want to get my selenium naturally. And so they're like, oh, I'm going to go out and eat Brazil nuts. Well, there's a problem with that. Yes, one Brazil nut can have 70 micrograms of selenium in it. So what if you ate 5? You're already toxic. Okay. But they might not, because you can't know from a particular batch of Brazil nuts how much selenium is in a
It's there. Yeah.
single thing, because you don't know where it was grown. They don't like do a chemical test on the thing. It's a food. They don't do that. And so,
And even depending on the soil, it depends on how much selenium was ended up in that Brazil nut. So absolutely, yeah.
And so selenium deficiency, to the best of my understanding, is much more prevalent in Europe than it is in the United States. And so there was studies that were done in Europe where they gave people 200 micrograms of selenium a day, and it helped them resolve their Hashimoto's disease, or not resolve the disease, but resolve their antibody levels, like lower their antibody levels and feel better. And so people are like, oh, well, everybody needs to take selenium. Well, no, not everybody needs to take selenium.
No.
And so that's really, really important that you follow these things, and you know what you need.
Yeah, and then there's also this like glandula that they have on the market over the counter that people just take. And it's scary because nobody knows how much, thyroid there is, or how much hormone there is in these glandula. Who made them? What else is in it? Is it going to be toxic? Who is following up with these results? It's really wild.
Well, okay, so that's an interesting segue, and I'm gonna focus in on that just for a second, because so a thyroid glandular is made from an animal thyroid gland, and they dry it out and they chop it up and purify it in some way, and then put it in a caplet or a capsule or a tablet, and you take it. Well, there are several brands of thyroid glandulars, so to speak, that are prescription medicines.
True.
NP thyroid, Armor thyroid. There's all different brands of natural desiccated thyroid. That's basically a glandular, but it's a glandular that is regulated in its potency, and it is observed and monitored by the FDA. But the problem, and a lot of people take that. 1.6 million people in the US are on those medications. The FDA just announced that they have decided that those glandulars are biologics, and they are forcing them off the market.
Oh, wow. That's unfortunate.
We are in big trouble. The people who use those, and I'm telling you, I don't take that anymore, but that stuff saved my life. When 20 years ago, when I first started taking it, that stuff saved my life.
Wow.
I don't know where I would be now if I hadn't heard that lecture and started that movement. And so this is a big.
You would have still been on antidepressants, gained weight.
No, I would be dead. I would have committed suicide. I would have been. I would be dead.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have survived. I really, really don't. Because I couldn't. As ambitious and smart of a person as I am, having that level of low energy was just devastating. And I debate with myself all the time now. It's like, okay, what would happen if I went blind? Would I want to still live? I don't know. If somebody said to me, you're going to lay on the couch for the rest of your life, I'd be, well, I don't want a very long life, do I? I don't know. That's just me.
Gotcha.
And
everybody has.
Some people are going to say, oh, well, that's blasphemy and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But I'm just telling you, I don't know what I would do if that was the case.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're taking these drugs off the market. They've given the manufacturers 12 months to submit data that shows that these are not just safe but efficacious. And the reason why they've decided that is because
Wow.
the natural thyroid has protein in it. And they've
Okay.
decided that, and I'm like, that's so hypocritical. I mean, are you going to
Yeah.
tell me you're going to take my steak off the market because it's a biologic? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Beef
That's
jerky, you're going to stop selling that too? I don't know. It makes me mad. The more I think about it, the madder I get.
yeah.
And I that somebody under the table somewhere paid somebody, some manufacturer paid somebody at the FDA to go on this witch hunt. And I'll just call it
Mm-hmm.
that. It's a witch hunt.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially if people are reporting that they are doing well. I mean,
yeah,
if your end goal is for people to be well, you
yeah,
should be okay with that instead
yeah.
of going
Well, I
on a
mean,
witch
and
hunt.
there's
And
all kind of
it's
myths
very,
about it.
yeah.
They're like, oh, well, the potency is not up to snuff. And I'm like, well, okay, but the potency of generic Synthroid is not up to snuff either. So that doesn't, take that one off the list. And they're like, oh, well, when people take it, their TSH goes down too low. I'm like, well, if you manage their TSH properly,
Yeah.
it's not a set it. Thyroid is not a set it and forget it kind of a thing. You have to know what you're doing to prescribe it. And yes, if you give somebody too much of any thyroid medicine, their TSH goes too low. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
another stupid argument. But anyway, if you have
Yeah. That's
people who
like
are
a,
listening who take one of these medicines, NP thyroid, Armour thyroid, please call your congressman, send them an email, write them a letter, send emails to Marty Makary,
yeah.
the new chief of the FDA, and say, look, this is the dumbest thing ever. I am not going back on Synthroid. It doesn't work for me.
Absolutely.
And we need to fill the mailroom
With
at the
this,
FDA
yes.
with this because it makes me so mad. And I'm sorry, I'll shut up about that now, but I'm so angry. I found out about it just like a few days ago, and I'm so angry about this. But anyway,
Hmm. Yeah, I think, once the information is disseminated and people realize it, this is how we make change is by demanding something different.
yeah.
So, and if all else fails, you can always go to Canada, but hopefully we don't have to do
I
that.
don't
I'm sure.
I, I don't know if the manufacturer here in the US stops making it. I don't know what Canada is going to do because the manufacturer of the good stuff is here in the US. If they shut them
Mm,
down, what are we going to do? Don't know.
hopefully not. Hopefully not. We will
Hopefully not.
do our civic duty to
Yeah.
stop it. Yeah.
Yeah. But you had brought up glandulars, and I will tell you that
Hmm.
there are over the counter versions of those prescription glandulars that you can just go to the internet and buy. And
Mm.
they are marketed and promoted by I hate to say it, people who call themselves functional medicine practitioners
Okay.
who have no medical training whatsoever.
Ever. Yeah.
And they're telling people that they could take 6 grains of this stuff a day. And 6 grains is like 3 times more than anybody I've ever written a prescription of
Yeah.
thyroid for. And taking too much thyroid hormone in whatever form can cause something called thyroid storm. And thyroid storm will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the fatality rate, if you are actually in thyroid storm, the fatality rate is 50%.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
it's like if you're taking something and you're not getting it monitored,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what it is, whether it's a prescription Synthroid or whether it's a prescription T3 or whether it's a natural desiccated thyroid prescription or whether it's an
Mm.
over the counter, if you're not going to the lab and getting it monitored,
That's a problem.
that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And another issue with thyroid, people are like, oh, well, I just take enough to resolve my symptoms. So the problem is the symptoms of too much and not enough are very frequently the same symptoms.
Yes.
And so there is a bell curve and there is a happy medium in there. And if you go too high, you feel bad. If you go too low, you feel bad. And so saying that there's no that you can go without test is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
We
It's really dumb.
have to listen to symptoms and also, look at numbers and try to,
I agree.
juggle both. So I have
I
an
agree.
interesting question. So
Yeah.
what about the patient who has a high TSH, borderline thyroid hormone levels, who
Mm-hmm.
says, I feel fine, but has been put on Synthroid? She says, I have no symptoms. You go down the checklist. She says, nope, I don't have any symptoms. I feel fine.
So
Have you seen that
are you
before?
saying their TSH is still high and they're on the Synthroid?
Yes, their
Okay.
TSH is high. It's like 9, and they are still on Synthroid.
Yeah. And if you try raising the amount a little bit, then they feel worse?
They don't feel anything. They
They don't
are
feel
being
any different.
treated
Uh-huh.
because of the numbers,
I see. I see. I see.
So
Well, you
what
okay.
would you
So
say to that?
here's the thing. We think about thyroid and symptoms, but what we
Okay.
don't think about thyroid and physiology and numbers.
Exactly.
So does that person have a bad lipid profile?
Okay.
Is their LDL cholesterol high?
Yeah.
If it is, then what's one of the best ways to get it to come down? Well, it's actually to take a little more thyroid medicine.
Yeah.
You don't have to go down to where their TSH is 0.0 something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, get it down to 2. I think that's a 2 is a good happy medium. But your lipid numbers are going to look better. Your bone
function.
The bone,
Yeah,
okay, now bone is another hour worth of talking. So I'll just try to keep it short. Bone, because I looked this up just a couple of days ago. If you have hypothyroidism, you don't necessarily lose bone density faster, but the balance goes to less breakdown and less building new bone, which means more brittleness of your bones and less elasticity of your bones. I mean, healthy bone is a living organ. It's building up and it's taking away at the same time, and it's maintaining. And if you are hypothyroid, then that turnover, both the reabsorption and the building of the new bone, will go down.
Okay.
And so bone health is more of a problem in people who are taking too much levothyroxine.
Okay.
If your TSH is down at 0.02, something like that, you're breaking down bone. I can just about guarantee you that, unless you have a pituitary tumor and you need to be following something else. But yeah, but there's like your creatine kinase, so the amount of muscles that you build and break down, the amount of liver enzyme turnover, the amount of the sex hormone binding globulin and the thyroid binding globulin that you have depends on sufficient thyroid. The quality of your nails, the quality of your hair, the quality of your skin, it all depends on sufficient thyroid.
Yeah.
And truthfully, if somebody has low, like high TSH, low T4, but their T3 and that ratio is still right on, I might not do anything.
Okay.
If they feel good and then you give them more and they feel worse, I might not do anything.
Yeah.
But
as long as their T3 is like okay,
as long as their T3 is pretty good and their ratio is okay, I might not do anything for that person. But I will tell you, here's the thing. There are so many people out there who have had Hashimoto's since they were 10 or 12 or 15 years old. And they're in their 30s now. And they're just now getting into that, okay, now your TSH is going up kind of stage. They don't know what it feels like to be normal. I can tell you that. They have never known.
Their norm has changed.
They have never known normal.
Gotcha.
And so the amount of energy that they have today, they compare with last week and last month and last year. They don't compare it to when they were 6, when they were still fine.
Yeah,
They
and
don't
then you
know.
throw into
I didn't know. That list,
motherhood,
yeah. That
career
list of
building.
symptoms that I had,
Yeah,
I didn't know those things were from thyroid.
yeah,
I just thought that was the way I was. I just thought
yeah.
that was I'm just cold natured. Oh, I just have thin hair. Oh, I just get a cavity every year and have to have another cavity filled. I haven't had a single
Mm.
cavity since I started thyroid medicine.
Wow. Wow.
My cholesterol went down. I haven't had a single sinus infection since I started thyroid medicine.
Wow.
Actually, that's not true. I might have had one. I mean,
But
and
still,
before I had them every 6 or 8 weeks.
wow.
I
Wow.
mean, so people don't know what they don't know.
Don't know. That's true. That's
And
absolutely
so
true.
I would at least try to get them down into the middle range on their TSH and look at the relative levels of T3 and T4.
Yeah,
I
I
would
mean, it's
definitely
hard
recommend
to
that.
do much when the person is like, listen, I feel fine. I don't even know why I'm on a Synthroid. So yeah, you make a good point there that it is possible that they have not known normal. Oh, we froze there a bit. Hmm. Hello?